If the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say this was their finest hour.
We stand for Queen, Country, and Video Games. BRB UK. Worse teeth, better accents.
Hello and welcome to episode 289 of the BigRedBarel UK podcast. I am Coleman. Hi, and it's a very special episode. It is that time of year where we go to Tobacco Dock in London Town and we go check out all the indie games, for it is time for EGX Rezzed, which means there is a Tim who is interrupting.
I was going to interrupt him.
And a guest who's interrupting. There is no Dan, because Dan doesn't like going to public shows where the smelly people will touch him. That's his fear, I think.
Too many plebs.
Too many plebs. Too many plebs. Tim's here.
Hello!
And guesting on the show, the voice of voicemails that we used to splice in at the end of the show, Ed Price.
I'm going over, lads.
I know this is the second podcast I've done with you that you've said that.
Yeah, I'm going to make it my new thing.
Ed, we're going to introduce you to the audience.
Hi.
How long you been playing games? What's your favourite system? What's your favourite game? And that'll do.
Since forever.
Good answer.
Probably at the moment the 3DS, and then if I ever finish it, Breath of the Wild. But otherwise, of all time, probably Mario Galaxy 2.
You may have guessed Ed is much younger than me and Tim. All right, let's kick it off. We have been, as pre-warned, as pre-mentioned in the show, we have been to EGX Rezzed, we have toured around, we have played a bunch of games. Therefore, this episode is just about the games we have been playing. So if you're not into Rezzed and you're not into indie games, listen anyway. It might be entertaining. You never know.
If you're not into video games, what the hell are you doing listening to the show?
I was looking for garden question time and I got confused.
I was looking for my barrel maintenance podcast.
Specifically to UK-related barrels that are of the red variety.
Only of the UK standards.
Oh, when are they getting in them red wooden barrels? Ooh.
Tim, what are you going to kick us off with? Talk about a game.
Talk about a game. Okay, well...
Specifically one you played.
That would be a good start, wouldn't it? Okay, well, look, let's go top of the show. One that I had a interview for, and one that we both played, Mr. Coleman.
Okay.
So let's start off with Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes.
I have heard of this game and played this game.
And I watched you both play it.
Yeah, and as I said, I was lucky enough to meet Suda51 and have an interview with him, and the interview has been edited by Mr. Coleman himself.
Hello.
And is up on our YouTube channel, so if you want to see that, that is available now. But yeah, we also, before that, got to play the game as well. And yeah, it was a hack and slash level of a game that I think is going to contain more game modes by the sound of it. So we only got to see like the hack and slash level, but we were playing it co-op on the Joy-Cons, basically.
If you don't know No More Heroes, there's two games of No More Heroes, No More Heroes 2. You play a third-person style hack and slash game. Uses the Wiimote, lots of funny functionality with that. It lets you wield a sort of semi-lightsaber. It's a light baton, I think. Kind of looks like a strip light stuck into a sword. And the sword does things like it runs on a battery, and the way to charge it is with kinetic energy. So you stop and kind of make a thrusting motion to your groin with the Wiimote to charge it up. It's a very silly game. It's made by Suda51, so if you know his games like Lollipop Chainsaw and Killer 7, you know the kind of ludicrous style he tends to go for. And yeah, I've been kind of weary about this one because since we first saw the screens of it back at E3, I think, or one of the Nintendo Directs originally, they gave the impression that it's a top-down hack and slash instead of a third person, so more Diablo-y style, but also it contains many different kinds of modes that build up a level rather than just a hack and slash. So there's racing levels and there's maze finder levels and all these kind of things. So that's got me on the kind of defensive when it comes to this game, but for what we played, which seemed to be an early level, which was just hack and slash semi-top down, it was fun.
It was almost like not quite isometric, but kind of like 3D going into the screen kind of thing, basically.
Yeah.
Perspective going into the screen. But it was one of those things where I was actually more nervous about the fact when we were handed the Joy-Cons and playing with those. But it was a simple enough control system that I think it would actually work quite well on that. Where if it's a game designed around playing lots of games that play that easily in that format, then I can see that being quite a good kind of fit for the system.
Yeah, it's definitely been remade with reworked with the Switch in mind.
Yeah.
And the idea of taking the Joy-Cons and splitting them into two, so you've got that option to you. Though they are motion controls, that it doesn't really use motion controls that much. To charge up the sword, the silly wankery gestures are turned into you press a button and kind of shake the Joy-Con a little bit.
It did feel a bit less sexualized. I don't know if that was a deliberate thing or just what he did. But interesting, in the interview, he did bring up the fact that he was inspired by indie teams, and that's why it was interesting that it was actually on show at Rezzed, which is predominantly more of an indie game show.
Yeah.
But he did say that this was a game that he deliberately designed with a very small team. I think he said it was 5 initially and then it went up to like 15 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a game that he sort of designed with a small team with a kind of small vision and has targeted the Switch with it, basically. For me, I'm actually sort of it's more appealing to me because of the different mix-ups in game styles and stuff like that. And there was some interesting stuff like that in, say, Lollipop Chainsaw and stuff like that I really enjoyed. And I think that could be something, when he's exploring what the Switch can do in terms of gameplay, I think that could be a really interesting thing to go through.
I've got a quick question, as you both played it together.
Yeah.
Did you really think, like, this isn't to disparage the game at all or anything, but considering it's been like about a decade since No More Heroes 2 Desperate Struggle, did you feel like this was a necessary return? Or did you sort of feel like it didn't fully justify itself as a sequel yet? Because that's my worry about it.
I don't think it is a sequel, especially by the way they've taken the title and flipped it around. So it's Travis Strikes Again, No More Heroes, not No More Heroes, Travis Strikes Again.
So it's got that name on it for marketing purposey type things, but
it seems
I think
like
it's
a tie-in.
more of a spin-off game, basically.
Yeah, and even the story, which very reminiscent of Superman 64, by the way. The story, you're not going around in that world and being the bounty hunter. You're being sucked into a computer world and you are basically playing against, in that world's version of famous video game characters and bosses and things. So one of the guys we were fighting against was a violent video game boss that Travis knows from playing his video games. And it's toned down a lot in that there's not the big bombastic cutscenes. Instead, it's kind of text on screen, character slides in and out sort of thing. Yeah, it definitely feels like a spin-off, so I'm going to guess that this isn't going to come out as like a full AAA price type title.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they said on price point yet, but yeah, I would expect it not to be, the full whack, basically. But I was kind of keen on it anyway, and I'm more keen, having played it and possibly biased, having met Suda51 and him being a really nice guy as well. But as I said, I'm definitely interested in picking up a copy and kind of seeing where it goes. I think the gameplay could be really good. And just another point of note, just the fact that quite comedic anyway, and I expect the final game to be a similar sense of humour, but the stuff they had in the demo at the show was quite funny just because it made reference to EGX Rezzed and talked about it in reference to other gaming shows and stuff like that. It's obviously something where they've muddled around the text for different shows as well.
Yeah. You can kind of see it's like placeholder text that's been changed. To go, it's great to be at EGX Rezzed and around in London. Yeah. Let's go have some fish and chips, that sort of thing.
But it was a nice touch anyway.
It was cool. Nice.
One last question for you, Tim. Did you tell Suda how much you love Deadly Premonition? No. I remember that being discussed before. No, Tim, he didn't do Dark Dreams Don't Die. It's fine.
Ed, how did you find queuing up for Travis Strikes Again before Tim pushed you out of the way and went, shove off, pleb, and took your go?
That's not exactly how this went down.
Exactly how it happened.
It's how I remember it and why I cried myself to sleep at night. But it was fine. Like I feel like watching you two play it, I sort of understood everything that I would need to, if that makes sense. Like there wasn't anything where watching it, I felt like I'm going to get like a massive difference playing this. It's very much it tells a lot through its visual stuff rather than,
Yeah.
All right, Ed, do you want to pick a game?
So I'll start off with the first game that I played at Rezzed, which is a game called Kenshi. It's currently on Steam on early access, and the lead developer was working on it part-time while he was also working as a security guard. And now, like, from the money that he makes on early access, he's now able to fund the rest of the game. It's like a massively, massively open world RPG, but it's one that is very intent on kicking your butt.
Well, he's doing early accents right.
So your characters can permanently lose limbs. You get like a wide variety of races and classes and stuff. I'm pretty sure the developer now hates me because I was one of the first people to play the game because I was interviewing him for something different. And he was guiding me through the game, and within like the first 2 minutes, I managed to get the entire squad of 11 characters all brutally murdered. Like, not even through like trying. I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna leave the town. And then like the guards were like, oh, you got to pay a bounty. And one of my characters went, nah, go suck one. Tried to run away. Everyone got slaughtered in like 2 hits. And anyone who didn't die was thrown in jail, and then I had to try and break everyone out of jail. And about half an hour later, you know, I don't think I'd actually go anywhere with you. I'm a bit worried about your leadership skills. Like, I mean, after watching me for 20 minutes, I don't blame him. But it's like absolutely massive game. He was saying it's at least maybe twice the size of Breath of the Wild.
Oh, wow.
And there's stuff to do all the time. It's just one of those games.
That's not a small game, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those games where it's going to have a very steep difficulty curve, and it's going to be one of those ones where you may have to play it over like 2 or 3 times before you really go, okay, this is the run where I've got everything. And even then, you could absolutely just have your limbs hacked off by someone and have to go get like robot legs. So... It was really enjoyable. I laughed quite a lot, but I think, yeah, to the developer, if you hear this, I'm very, very sorry.
Did you ask about sort of plans for future platforms, or is it just Steam for now?
I think it's just Steam for now. They're still adding a lot of features as they go. So just before the show, they just added a new map area, and they'd only recently added the ability to buy prosthetic limbs. So before then, if your characters had their legs chopped off, your like teammates would literally have to pick them up and carry them around.
That sounds awesome.
It was a really amazing game.
I want to be a burden on society.
It's a really amazing game. I really enjoyed it, but it's one of those ones where, yeah, you have to really think about everything you do and save often, because I did not, and 15 minutes of the playthrough was me trying to get out of jail to no avail, while the developer just slowly became increasingly sick of me.
I like it. All right, then. I'm going to grab one. Let's talk about Onrush.
Oh, okay.
This is a game I've spoken about on the show before. I've been very excited about this. Tim has the point as well. If you don't know, well, we've spoken about Onrush before. We went to a special preview show to go see Onrush. We got to play the game. Tim got to play it in multiplayer while I kind of hung back, and for the good of the show, I did the capture.
Yeah.
So I did all the capture videos.
Good of the internet.
Yeah, I did all the capture videos that are up on BigRedBarel TV on YouTube. Not as much criticism as Tim got. Some criticism, because apparently if I'm on a motorbike, I love to pull stunts and fail miserably at pulling them and fall off, which is the same in any game that gives me a motorbike.
They did say that, yeah, the motorbike's something that they were planning on tightening up a bit before launch, basically. So I don't think you're too bad there. Okay,
that's good. So the scenario we had here, they set up one set of it was like 2 banks of computers, but basically one set game for Onrush of multiplayer. And through playing the game in preview, I didn't like this mode called Countdown as much as everything else.
Oh, I quite like that.
And that was mainly because kind of the way it's sold to you, this game is pitched to you. Like, okay, imagine a racing game where you don't race. And then they introduced this game called Countdown, which is racing.
Yeah, but it's racing to like focus checkpoints, and it leads to like moves where you can really mess with people to stop them getting.
There is that, but it is essentially just racing through gates, and I don't. Yeah, that's like the most hated game mechanic for me in any game, especially ones that add in racing and then straight races themselves. But I actually quite enjoyed this in the multiplayer scenario. So we had a 6-on-6 match. Very fun. I got to play with like not just a bunch of randoms. I got to play with friends, and that was a really cool experience to do. Like there was me, Alex, Sarah, Neil. I think Bleezy was in there, and Bleezy, and we absolutely kicked ass. Like I think we had 3 matches and won every single one of them. I think Alex was our ringer. She's very good at Onrush and didn't realise it. No, we got to the end. She's like, what are the buttons? I think I had the advantage in that one, having played a bunch of this game already in private. So that was pretty cool. But it's looking really cool. They gave away posters to everyone that played, and they're really nice posters as well. I took one home with me, and yeah, I can't wait for this game to come out. They didn't really show anything of the whole loot box, loot crate type mechanics. I'm wondering if that's gone or they're just keeping quiet.
I reckon that might be gone by the time launch comes out. But they, I don't know if you saw the developer session. I didn't actually get to see it at the event, but I watched it afterwards, and it is available to watch online. And they showed off a couple of the other courses. And one of them looks really good fun. It's like hooning across a golf course. But kind of, making carnage as you go kind of thing. But it looked like a really interesting kind of, barreling through the bunkers and kind of, just tearing up this golf course kind of, it's a place where it felt very like out of place to be racing there in a kind of hectic race, and it kind of felt destructive, but it looked really fun basically. And yeah, they showed off a bit more of the game as well, so I do recommend going and watching the dev session on Eurogamer's site basically. And
watching our footage on BigRedBarel TV on YouTube. Yes,
and because we got the footage up there as well, and we've also got an interview hopefully coming up with him at some point as well.
And it's not just the footage we have. It's not just us playing the game. It's there's introductions to the different type. Well, first there's an introduction to the game itself and explains exactly what you're doing, and then there's two other games for is it Rush mode? And Countdown, and kind of explains what those matches are before you go.
Overdrive mode is.
Overdrive, sorry.
Yeah.
Coleman, I've got a question about Countdown mode. When you're playing, does it start going...
Why would they play the Great British Debate Countdown music?
That's what I was wondering. Maybe they're just big fans of the show.
Because that's never been used in anything else ever. Anyway, yeah, that's Onrush. I just wanted to touch on it quickly because we have spoken at length about Onrush before, and we probably will when the game actually comes out as well. Because, I'm definitely picking that one up. I really like playing that game.
Yep.
Tim.
Agreed.
Give me another.
Well, let's keep it in the racing category for a second and talk a bit of grip.
Cool.
Because I did get to do an interview with the developer. I didn't record the audio.
You blank.
So yeah, we managed to sort that out for future interviews, fortunately. But this one unfortunately passes by. Although I did hopefully catch up with the developer near a launch and get an insight from him directly there. But yeah, did get to speak to him and sort of chat about the game and their plans for the game. Did also ask about VR. I did kind of I tweeted at some point through Rezzed that I could have saved everyone time at this event by just printing a T-shirt that said. Is there a Switch version planned, and is there any VR content planned?
Now, as much as I argued with you about Onrush shouldn't have VR mode because that game's just like you get crashed into and spun out, all this kind of stuff. This is not a game for VR, Tim. This is worse than Trackmania Turbo.
He did say this might be a bit too intense, and I did bring Trackmania up as a possible example, but yeah, it might be a bit too intense for VR. I have to say that. And it's obviously, not designed with that in mind, so that's fine. But for anyone that hasn't seen, it's spiritual successor to what was the original game? Roll Cage.
For the PlayStation.
For the PlayStation. And spiritual successor to that. And unbeknownst to myself, Coleman and Diomed, we all actually backed the Kickstarter of this without actually talking to each other. We were all like, oh, back this looks fun. Arcade racing game. So yeah, it's definitely something we're all interested in. And I despite actually interviewing him, I didn't play at the time, and then when the interview messed up, I was like, kind of, sheepishly kind of went away. But I did get to play a little bit the night before, but I didn't get to explore that much. But everyone that we were with, I think, pretty much played a bit of Grip, and everyone came away saying good things. Basically, it's fun.
So I played this. I don't think it was I think it was 2 years ago when they brought it to Rezzed initially, and it was set up on one PC. It was a very small display, and I think the guy went home after a day as well. So what happened is I went on the first day, played it, and went, cool, get Tim back here. And then Saturday, Tim came in. I went, cool, go play Grip. And we went over to play multiplayer, and it was gone. So that didn't happen. So this was pretty cool. I got to go in and actually play some 2-player matches. I played with Diomed. The build we were playing was a little bit buggy. There were a couple of issues So basically, I'd be in I'd be in fifth, and then I'd cross the finish line, and it would just jump up to first. So I won every match, even though I was playing very badly.
That's the thing. Like, it doesn't rely on just your placement in the thing. It's a combined score throughout the level. Oh, okay. So that was genuine. That wasn't a bug. That was you doing well.
I'll let them off then.
You was good.
Okay.
And stuff.
If you don't know what roll cage is and you don't know what grip is and you've not seen these before, the best way of describing it, because this was kind of the time the initial roll cage game was in the kind of time in PlayStation where Mario Kart was big on the 64 and everyone needed Wipeout was big on the PlayStation and everyone either needed a Mario Kart game or a Wipeout game, and this one tried to make both of them by making this futuristic sort of semi-kart racing game with weapons. Yeah. But instead of being in go-karts, they took the Ricochet RC kart and turned it into an actual vehicle. And that's exactly what grip is. So if you like the sounds of that, as bonkers as it is, you'll probably want to play this one with all your charge pads and you're driving up walls and in tunnels and flipping around all over the place and weapons and stuff. It's super fun. And the developer did say that, it's one where they're obviously bringing online to this where it didn't have it before. Obviously that suits the style of game, but it's something that, Roll Cage didn't have originally and something that they're bringing to the equation as well, basically. Good. Yeah. All right. Ed. Yes, me. Hi. Give me something, big boy. So another one I saw was Spectrum Retreat. I kept on meaning to go over and see that. It looked interesting. It really, really is. So the story of it is basically Dan Smith basically... Sorry, I'm doing a Tim now. He's all basically good man. He started developing the game at 15 years old. He was just messing around with a prototype just to learn game development. And from there, it's now spiraled into... He won the BAFTA Young Designer Awards a couple of years back. He's now got a publisher behind him, and the game's coming out later this year. So, as he was saying to me, he spent a quarter of his life on this game, so he really, really hopes that people like it. In terms of premise, it's split in two parts, basically. So, one half of it is you're in an Art Deco hotel, and something creepy's going on. And the other half, which is the part that was on the show floor, is the puzzles. So it's mostly just colour swapping. So, for example, switches are activated by like an orange light, and you need to have you have a device that absorbs colour as well. So you need to be holding the orange colour while you go through certain portals, or you need like the white one to go through other portals. It was simple enough, but like even from the early stages, like the puzzles can be complex enough that I was watching people play it and they were getting, like, they weren't getting stuck necessarily, but you could see, like, there was clearly a thought process that had to be involved even in the early stages of the game. The other thing he was saying to me was that it's quite a difficult balance in terms of getting everything right, because first, you've got to worry that people are going to bounce off very quickly when it's a puzzle game that everyone needs to enjoy on some level. Also, the fact that the game is split into different mechanics. So he was saying specifically people who like Portal and Antichamber, who just want the puzzles. He's a bit worried that people might sort of just go, I was only here for the puzzles, what's this other half? But he's got a really good pedigree. It's clear that he's incredibly talented, and that, considering this is just his first game, he's clearly got an incredibly bright future at only 20 years old. With... he's also had advice from indie developers like Dan Pearce and Mike Biffle. So he's going to go a long way in future, and game looks fantastic in its own way. And if you like puzzle games, it's definitely one that I want to give a try later in the year. Sounds interesting. I have to put that on my, Also, hi Dan Pearce. List. He's a lovely man, that Dan Pearce. So is Mr. Mike Biffle, if we're on the subject. Well, yeah, but Mike's not listening. Tim? Right, let's go Insane Robots. Insane Robots. They're insane in the mainframe. So, I
do have a audio interview with the developer of this, so I don't know, are we going to slot that in here, Mr. Coleman, or at some point? I don't know.
We'll play it at some point.
It will be in at some point. We won't promise it's here today, but I won't go into it at full length. But basically, yeah, this is one that came to my interest just because they spoke about the fact that it was kind of influenced by like originally prototyped as a kind of card game, and kind of they iterated on like at that point rather than and then kind of ported it over to a digital format basically. But it's a kind of stripped down one-on-one turn-based combat game type thing between robots that are, it's quite zany and sort of it's got a kind of cartoony kind of feel to it. But then like the actual combat's, as I said, kind of one-on-one with you against an enemy, and you've got various different things that you can like randomly pull out of a selection of stuff that you have available to you, and they'll either basically sort of either buff your attack or defense, and you kind of need to complete a circuit of attack or defense before they'll kind of be usable basically. So there's like two components to each circuit. It seems to be that those circuits may get more complicated as you get throughout the game, but in the early portion we see there was kind of two circuits that you have to complete, and you've got to get, two attack or two defense before you can attack someone or before you can use them as a defense basically. And then there's a kind of one that kind of sits in between the two and can be used to buff either. And then there's various other things that you can do to either weaken your opponent's attack or defense, or kind of buff your attack and defense basically. And like it's kind of stripped down in terms of the like combat when you get to it, but then it kind of expands out a bit, and basically the mode they were showing off was kind of, it's on a hexagonal map, and you're kind of moving around the map and getting resources. The map kind of shrinks at points as well, so or has hazards that you need to be aware of and stuff like that. And there's various different environments, and you can like gain an advantage by being on higher ground than your opponents. And there's also, like as I said, environmental hazards in different levels that you need to be aware of. But then there's also you gain, I can't remember what the actual currency was, but you gain a currency from doing the combat successfully, and then you can use that in shops to like buy upgrades and give you different things that you can then pull as those abilities that you can activate during combat. And like it's kind of almost like distilled down to a simple form, but then expanded out into a bigger game beyond that as well. And quite interesting. It's I don't know if like how deep the tactics get. It was difficult to tell that from just the early portion I saw, but from everything that they talked about the game, it's definitely, and from the little bit I played, it's definitely one that I'm going to keep an eye on, and am interested in, having not heard about it before. And like it's got a good sense of humor to it as well. So that was cool, and one worth watching out for.
Cool.
Give us another game, Mr. Coleman, because Ed's running low on some.
I gotta get a game. I'm gonna pick out a game, and that game will be Windlands 2.
Yay!
Let's talk about Windlands 2, because Tim likes talking about VR.
Yep.
And a friend of mine works on this, and I like talking about things that my friends worked on. Collusion in the industry.
To be fair, there's so many of these games that we could relate to either people we know, or people that we've been friendly with, or people that have worked for the site, or anything else. So like before, like pretty much every one of these games is either someone that we did know and like, or someone that we now do and like. So just get that out there now. Windland 2 is a game I like, but I am not very good at.
Yeah, I can't. Well, actually, do you know what? I've got a different thing, because I was talking to a few people that played this, and there was basically two different versions of the game. Let's start from the beginning here. Yep. Windlands is a VR game. It came out. It did very well. It was all about kind of swinging around. It was a first-person story game that was
exploration adventure type thing.
Quite explory adventure type game. And you had this cool swinging mechanic that made you feel like Spider-Man, but made a lot of people feel quite sick if they fell, because you fall down very long distances. Me being one of those people. And Windlands 2 it has multiplayer and a really cool story that you can play in cooperative. So there was 2 versions of the game that were being shown off, both the same level, but one was you play with 3 other people, so a big 4-player team up doing the level, and one was the kind of press PC playing on your own. And I really wish I played in multiplayer, because I played on my own going through the tutorial. It was super fun. I like the feeling of swinging around. I'm very good at swinging around, apparently. I am not so good with the archery, which is weird because, like, little peer behind the curtains, I've won medals for my archery skills in the past.
I think you were probably trying to do it too realistically or something, because I was really good at the archery and really bad at the swinging, as a video will testify.
Like, the best example of VR archery I've seen so far, it's one of the Valve demos, where it's like a playroom type demo, and you've got all these different kind of things to do in the Valve universe and some outside it, and one of those things is playing with a bow and arrow, and it's, super accurate and fun. In Windlands, you got to kind of take the controllers and aim. We were using the Oculus Touch, is it? The controllers. And you got to kind of aim it like you're pulling the string to the middle of your forehead type thing to aim. And I just couldn't do that because I'm used to aiming from the side of my ear in any game I play archery. And so,
okay, yeah, because I kind of just automatically just looked down it, basically.
Yeah,
so I didn't have a
problem
problem with it.
I just want to point out that none of you used the V-archery pun, so I'm claiming it.
Okay,
go
good.
for it. Would you like to do that so you pretend that it's organic?
Do you guys mean...
No, I totally won't edit around and make it seem like that you're really clever.
You mean V-archery?
I
Super.
didn't have my bell, so I had to hit the desk.
No need to headbutt it, though, Coleman.
So yeah, Windlands 2, playing the game, like spoken, I'm the tester for whether a game will give you motion sickness if you're susceptible to it, because going in a car around a corner makes me sick. Windlands 2 didn't make me feel sick to play. It was on the Oculus, which I don't like the headset because the rubber grips go below my nostrils, and therefore, de facto, I breathe into the rubber grip and it goes back into the headset and I get sweaty eyes.
I just plain don't like the Oculus headset as much as the PSVR headset.
Yeah, and I love the Vive, even though the Vive's probably the heaviest out of the headsets on the front especially. But
being unfamiliar with those controllers did not help my situation, but I still managed to enjoy myself with the game. It's one of those things where I wasn't good at it, but it was clearly good.
I'll tell you that the placement of those controllers, the button placement around them and the sticks and things, was a lot better than the way it's set on the PS Move, the Move controllers. But and a little bit less confusing than the Vive probably as well. And I think that's just because it's been tailored to be kind of curved with your hand and stuff, rather than you're holding a very phallic-looking object.
Yeah, but I just kept on pressing the wrong button because I don't know where the buttons are that I was supposed to be pressing, and I'm not used to controls.
And went, right, that's that. All right, I got it, and didn't really hit anything by mistake. But yeah, it didn't make me feel sick playing it. I was fine with the button layouts and things. But then once I got out and I started walking, I kind of had the whole wavy sea leg thing going on. I couldn't figure out how to walk straight lines anymore. So yeah, it was an after effect kind of thing on it. But
I suppose it would make you better at playing the pirate game on Xbox One. What's it called again? Sea of Thieves. That's the one.
Sea of Thieves.
I remember video games.
Jim Black. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. Is this getting a PSVR launch as well? Because the first one did, didn't it?
Yes, I believe so. The one thing that as I said, other than me being bad at the game and needing to practice, the only thing that really worries me about the game is how, if they're leaning a bit too heavily on the multiplayer, will it be still playable in single player? Because the boss that they had, I seem to be hearing things about, well, it's better when you've got people to distract them, you can do different tactics. If it's just like a different way of playing, then I guess that's absolutely fine. But yeah, that would be my only concern. But other than that, generally, I spoke about this when I saw it develop VR previously as well, and we had the developer on, and I think we'll probably have them on again before launch as well, hopefully, or just after. But yeah, like it shaping up nicely, and extra bit of polish to it from the last build that I'd seen, and yeah, hopefully the finished game will be really good. So yeah,
cool. Windlands 2. Tim, is it your go?
Let's say that it is, but let's pick one that we've all played and go with Catastronauts.
Catastronauts. Did you play this?
Did you play this, Ed, or not? I wasn't sure if you did.
No,
Okay.
What is it? Is it about cats in space?
No, well, yeah, it sounded a bit bad, but basically, were they cats? I don't even remember.
There was no cats.
I don't think there were cats.
Catastronauts is in catastrophe.
And in astronauts. But yeah, I don't think there were any cats. But basically, yeah.
So were they dogs?
Well, no. Like, it distilled down in kind of, elevator pitch form. This is basically Overcooked does Star Trek.
Yeah. That's an accurate way of putting it.
And it's literally, if you imagine the same sort of thing as Overcooked, where you have a kitchen, instead of that, you have a spaceship. It kind of reminded me of Galaxy Trucker a little bit as well, for anyone who wants a board game reference. But basically, you're a crew of a starship, and you are battling another starship. And you have got to, initially it kind of just starts out nice and easily. You're just got like laser cannons that you need to fire at the enemy ship. Then it gets a bit more complicated. It adds a battery to those laser cannons, so after a bit of firing, you have to refill the batteries. Then it kind of adds another level of, the battery's on this side of the ship and two of you are on this side of the ship, but you need batteries on the other side of the ship, and here's a teleporter to teleport things back and forth. And so instead of like doing the recipe thing and kind of constructing all of that, you're having to like move around all the components. FTL would be another touch point as well, obviously, but in a kind of 4-player crazy manner, cartoon styly. And then there's also kind of again, environmental type hazards, both from space or just from stuff happening in your ship. There's one level that we played where there was it a solar flare or something, or a gas leak, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was some sort of thing basically where every couple of minutes we all had to rush to one safe room and then close the door behind us, and there was a few last minute, oh no, you're safe. Oh no, open the door, let me in. Kind of all that kind of hectic chat as we did it, basically. It's in the same style of play as kind of Overcooked, but manning a spaceship. It's exactly the same sort of manic fun and yelling at each other and trying to coordinate to do things. And it seemed. It's one of those things where it's definitely good, and what we played was good and fun. But I think a lot of it will depend on how much those changes and those other things mix it up over the levels, in terms of how much legs it has in the long term, sort of thing. But yeah. What did you think, Mr. Coleman? Because I thought this one was good.
It's worth noting because you kind of missed out on two mechanics as well.
Okay.
Two of the base mechanics is the ability to fix things, because all the equipment you're using can break, and while you're taking on firepower, there can be cracks to the ship's hull, and you've got to go repair those. Also, if things get damaged too badly, then fires can start, so there's a fire extinguisher as well.
Yeah.
So, quite funny as well, you could have a crack in the floor, and then fire will spring up through the floor. But if you stand back far enough, but close enough to the crack, but not so close you can get caught on fire, you can fix the hole. And it just is, I did that quite often while I'm waiting for someone to put out the fire. Just go, I'm fixing the fire. I fixed the fire, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Coleman. But there's also like a medi bay, so if you get too messed up by the fire or something else, then you go run to the medi bay and get yourself healed and stuff like that. So yeah, as I said, good hectic fun, and I enjoyed my time with that, basically.
The legs are going to be much like Overcooked. It's going to be kind of family party type scenarios, and also streamers. Streamers are going to play the hell out of this game for a while, and that's going to really boost it in sales, I think.
I think it's not just definitely more fun in multiplayer, but almost multiplayer.
It's like Overcooked. You could play in single player, but it's not as fun.
Yeah, it's not the same game.
It's going to be exactly like that. Though they haven't announced any online play at the moment, there's a possibility that could come. But at the moment, it's predominantly you play 4-player couch co-op. You have to sit together and play this game. Yeah,
and seems very suitable for that. It could be good fun. So it should be good.
Yeah, I call the captain. You won't tire of my leadership skills, I promise.
Good.
Ed.
Me.
His name is Mr. Ed.
It's me. Ed. Isn't that a horse?
Yeah.
Yes, that is a horse from back when Tim was 20.
That was black and white, dude.
1947.
When Tim was 20 in the 1920s. Ed, let's talk about Monarch.
Monarch. What was Monarch? That was the thing where we were riding horses and then we didn't know what was going on and then we played Hunt Down instead, right?
That is a pretty that's a pretty accurate script. So we'll kind of link this into two things then, because I didn't mention this at the time. This is my 4th time playing Monarch, and I still don't know what you do in that game.
What did you do?
We rode horses.
Exactly what Ed said. We rode horses. And
we picked up money, and then a creepy ghost kept telling us to come. And then
in first person or third person?
No. It's a side-scrolling pixel art type thing. Yeah,
right.
It's lovely looking. But it's really weird because so we're kind of playing a tutorial level and there's a ghost telling us what to do in this game. It's like, all right, you come here, now set a campfire. This campfire will cost you this many coin to make. Go build axes. Axes will cost you this many to make. Recruit people. You'll need this amount of money to do. Now, it seemed there was a finite amount of coin within the tutorial for us to do everything required to pass the tutorial, but it seemed to be enough allocated for a single player, not for 2-player co-op that was set up in this game. Yeah, so quite soon on, we did some bits, we'd fought over coins, and then there was nothing for us to do because we didn't have any coin to do anything.
Right.
Yeah, basically the ghost just kept telling us to come, and, I can only go so many times a day, and, afterwards, I think it was the 5th time it told us we had to recruit someone, and we were like, we don't have the money. We just sort of gave up.
Yeah, so that was... And I tell you, I've played this 4 times now. It's been this... Now it's with co-op. It's been the same experience. I've ridden around on a horse, not knowing what to do, got to the end of the screen, doesn't progress, and gone... Oh, I'm off to go play something else.
What we did play was a lot more fun, Coleman. Sieg.
Yes. Let's talk about Hunt Down.
Hunt Down.
Woo.
That was the theme tune, I believe they used. If like me, you're old and have played a lot of old school side-scrolling, beat-em-up, shoot-em-up, shmup type games, then this might be the game for you.
Ooh.
And if, like me, you were born in the 90s, it's fun.
Exactly. It's very same kind of vein. What was the big Broforce?
Right.
Broforce with the whole side-scrolling shooting kind of thing.
Yep.
But that was more silly fun. This is similar to that, but it's got more of a focus on arcade violence from the 80s. It's got a lot of influence of Blade Runner,
RoboCop,
a little bit of Final Fight in there, and yeah, you basically go around, you shoot things until bosses turn up, you shoot bosses, then at some point a big boss will come and you will struggle with them and die, and then get frustrated and go back to the start and try over again, and get better each time. Now, this one was a lot of fun. They had a decent soundtrack. It was very violent, but it was pixelated, so it's fine for children. It's weird how times change. If my mum saw this back in the day, she would freak. And she probably would if she saw me playing it now, to be honest. And yeah, so...
What is this? What is all of these red things?
Why would my mum call me Coleman? Calls me by her surname and my sibling's surname and my
Son Coleman.
Son Coleman.
It's just how she summons the whole clan. Coleman!
Son Coleman, what are you playing?
Well, Mother Coleman, I've been playing Hunt Down.
Actually, I like this. I'm going to stick with that. Anyway, yeah, so there's lots of power-ups and things to pick up. There's different weapons you switch out that can be temporarily used. I think you start off with a pistol, and that's your default weapon. Then you can pick up, like, sawn-up shotguns and
Is it kind of
Gatling
upgradable
guns.
Stuff, or are you just picking up better stuff as you go?
You're just picking up disposable weapons, essentially. And... yeah, it's fun. It is hard as balls.
Yeah, even in 2 players, we were really struggling at certain points. And when the boss character came along, like, it's one of those games where it really seems like, you start off with the sort of arcade shooting, but there is enough of a level of strategy involved that you will have to play levels over once or twice to sort of understand what you need to do.
It definitely has a mentality of arcade cabinets. This is a game made to take money off of you, but in the modern age, whether we don't do that mechanic anymore.
Okay, I'm currently playing a slightly different game that sounds like it's very much made in the same mold. Streets of Red. Don't know if you heard it on the Switch. Anyway,
yeah, I've heard.
We'll come to that next week. You're looking forward to that one then? That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I think I need to give it a couple more goes, but I might pick this one up. I don't know if it's
platforms.
Was that idea Xbox?
Yeah, we were playing that on the Xbox One. I'm not sure what the other consoles are. I would say it's something that I would play with you guys, but I don't know how much I would play it by myself. Not in any way to disparage it, but it seems very much like a game that is a lot more fun with another person.
Exactly, and sadly for me, sticking it on, if it is just on the Xbox, that kind of limits it for me because I don't play the Xbox a lot these days.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Tim.
Yep.
Give me that thing.
Okay.
Give me that thing.
Let's start. Start, but go for one that was right near the door, and a lot of people played, and I think it was the first thing that people told me to go play, even though I didn't play it first.
I know what it is.
Fogs.
Disco Elysium.
How to describe this one, Mr. Coleman?
It is a game made by the same people who made Shaq-Fu.
Right.
I forgot.
That tells us
Wait,
nothing.
Shaq-Fu the shoe store?
No. Shaq-Fu, S-C-H. No, S-H-C. I can't remember.
S-H-U.
S-H-U. So Shaq-Fu.
It's the three letters you're looking for, Coleman.
I knew it was three letters beginning with
But
an S.
Fogs is a bit of a sausage dog with two heads.
It's a cat dog, but it's
cat dog. Okay, good.
Cat dog was a cartoon.
Good.
In the 90s.
Yeah, but they had legs, and this doesn't.
So how does it
That's
poo?
a good point. Out of its mouth.
Yeah, I guess.
one clams up and strains, and the other one goes. Oh!
This is definitely
It's horrific.
This is definitely a game where you don't want to ask too many questions, and that's probably top of the question list that you don't want to ask, basically.
The person I asked said that it kind of meets in the middle and then just sprays outwards.
Oh, good.
So
that's great.
They both struggle.
But speaking of spraying outwards, one of the mechanics in the game was the fact that you can move water from one place to another by sucking it up through one mouth and spitting out the other.
Yeah, using it as a hose. And I never came across any of that stuff.
No?
I used... Because I was playing with Alex. And
you had to make things grow at some point. Did you not get to that point?
No, like we basically just breezed through it.
Okay.
I think I just kind of cheesed it until I got to the end.
There was some points where you could definitely kind of mess around with it and stuff. But yeah, generally you're kind of, opening other doors to get through, or like having to like press a button with one head while you stretch the sausage bit of the dog, the body part of the dog, like
his body.
Across two different things. Well, is it a body? Who knows?
Yes!
I guess it is. It could just be a really long neck, Coleman. But
You're a really long neck.
You're a really long neck.
You're like a giraffe.
Yeah.
Just all neck.
It's definitely very strange, but it also had like different things where you were kind of making your way across a gap by like swinging from one handle to another and gripping it with the alternate mouths, and I can see why other people liked it. It's not necessarily my sort of game, but I can see a lot of people having fun with it. Again, I could see it being a silly one for streams and stuff like that as well. So I can see this being successful, just not particularly with myself.
It's very charming. It's very colourful. It's definitely got some vibes of colourful games of that nature, much like Little Big Planet, Tearaway, just Media Molecule feeling, really. To be honest,
really, I thought it was a bit more kind of. Not to be too disparaging, a bit simpler kind of in terms of a more sort of toned down approach than that even kind of thing.
But I mean, I'm just meant tonally Star Wars.
Oh, right, yeah, okay.
The game mechanics itself. But yeah, it's... I really liked it. I'm looking forward to playing it. I like that you have to play it in co-op as well. I got to play with Alex, and I think I'm a nightmare because I wanted to play it like a dog. So my half of the dog was just running around going, all the way through, just trying to bite everything and bark at everything. Mine was Nightmare Dog, and Alex was trying to solve the puzzles.
Alex was trying to swat you with a newspaper.
But you can also play in single player and just play with both heads.
I don't want to play ever in single player. I always want to play that game in co-op. If you want to know more about Fogs, we do have a write-up on the site by Diomed, and it's a damn good read, if I do say so.
Well,
and you can see a picture of Alex posing with stuffed dogs. Fogs. Sorry, Fogs.
Fogs.
They're not dogs.
Not dogs.
They're Fogs.
Fogs.
Sausage Fogs.
Sausage Fogs.
Cool. Can I talk about the other game that everyone was talking about, EGX Rezzed, for different reasons?
Yep.
Disco Elysium?
I played Shaq-Fu: A Legend Returns.
Right.
Because I had to, really.
I did as well, but I'm guessing from what you're saying there that you didn't like it?
No, I wasn't a big fan.
Oh.
I liked certain bits, but the overall game itself, I wasn't a fan of. But, you know, par for the course, it's a sequel to Shaq-Fu.
Yeah, well, what were you expecting, Mr. Coleman?
I expected it to be bad. I wanted it to be bad. I was not left disappointed for that reason. It was quite funny because the same guys that are publishing Grip are publishing Shaq-Fu. So they were both housed in the same room. And as we went in to do the press thing, the guy came up, he's like, do you know anything about either of these games? So I went, oh, Grip, yeah, I used to play Roll Cage as a kid. I'm really looking forward to Grip when I saw it. I backed the Kickstarter. That's I didn't fail. I've met the creator before and I played the game, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is progressing and I can't wait to buy it. So what do you know about Shaq-Fu? I go, I own Shaq-Fu.
Only the original.
And I'm not very good at it. So I can't wait to play this.
Right, so, sorry, with Shaq-Fu, like, because, again, like, 90s kid, I have no idea what's going on here.
Right.
So Shaquille O'Neal...
Yeah, I know who Shaquille O'Neal is, but is the appeal that generally that it was a bad game and that's why everyone likes it, and therefore this sequel is like...
So there's a sport called basketball, Ed.
So there was a there was a period in gaming not that long ago where people were looking at either revitalizing incredibly hard games, nostalgic difficult games, or nostalgic bad games. And I think the kind of craze of that came to a head with the whole E.T. Atari cartridge thing, where they were trying to find all the supposed buried cartridges. And Shaq-Fu was announced for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 and disappeared and is now back, but coming to Switch, Xbox One, PS4 and PC. So it's taken some time away and now it's close to coming out. I think the version we had at the show was the full game. Because I know this by the point where if you got to a certain part of the game, someone would have to come over and like push you out of the chair and go, sorry, I've got to reset the game, don't look at that, don't look at that.
Nothing to see here, move along, please.
No Shaq over here. Go about your business. Yeah, so it's got some good humor and it's got some...
Yeah, I like the humor, for sure.
There's some stuff in the game that people will probably get offended by, you know, the whole stereotypical white guy doing Asian voice, some gay jokes in there. But then there's a lot of jokes about Shaq's career, which I really like because, you know, kid of the 90s, Shaq was everywhere.
And, you know, Space Jam.
That's racist. So
basketballist.
One of the big things I found really funny, because this like directly taps into my childhood. There's a point where a bad guy says, "Shaq-Fu, why did you bother remaking that piece of junk? Why didn't you make why didn't you make Steel instead?" And Shaq's like, "That's next on the list, baby. Yeah." Like, yeah, I'd probably watch a remake of Steel. I watched Steel as a kid. Yeah, in terms of gameplay, it's an old school style scrolling beat 'em up, and
it's very much this enemy attacks like this, so you need to attack him like this kind of thing.
And it does that kind of thing of, this is the boss on this part of the level, but so in later levels, as you progressed further, you're going to have to face more of them because you're more powerful now. But it goes, okay, this is the mini boss for this level, and as soon as you beat him, 4 more will appear. it kind of messes that part up. So it takes a lot of the older points of beat 'em ups and kind of misses the point with them. It doesn't really where you've got, say, like Castle Crashers, and it's got a lot of charm to it, and it brings in RPG mechanics, and there's kind of games of that ilk that bring something new to the table. Shaq-Fu, apart from hitting characters and they sometimes hit the screen, I don't really think it brings much to the table.
Well, I liked the humor, and I like the like how that humor also plays out in some of the combat, like the when you do the massive boot and it kicks people towards the screen and stuff. That type of stuff is fun, and I did have fun playing the game. But I do think that for the type of game it is, being a little bit one-dimensional in terms of, as I said, you've got very much kind of this enemy attacks like this, and like that style of game like has its fans, and I don't doubt there will be people that will like this, but I think the type of game it is and the silly humour it is, it should probably be aiming at a slightly easier level if it wants to hit more mass market appeal.
Yeah. I did think a funny part was the system I was using. All the systems had headphones except for one, which was the one I was using. And it was right on the end. So quite a lot of time people would walk up, see what I'm playing, ask me something while I'm playing it. And at one point there was a very young child, and his mother, and the kid was waiting to play the game. And his mother was, you'll wait your turn. I'm sure this man will let us play once he's finished. And at some point, the kid ran off to look at other units that people were playing the game on. And at some point, the mother tuned into what I was playing and listened to the dialogue. And as her son came back, she grabbed him by the wrist and walked out, going, "You're not playing this." So I thought that was very funny.
Coleman, you won't be playing this game.
Yeah, it was like that. Why did I do that? Son Coleman, I will not allow you to play this game. And there was two kind of highlights I did. Like, there's a point where you get like an exoskeleton armor type thing, and you get to, it powers you up, makes you near invincible. That kind of reminded me of the old arcade version of Moonwalker back in the day. And there's lots of, like I said, there's lots of nods to Shaq's career and the jokes about the movies he's done and the sheer amount of adverts he does these days for like back pain tablets and things. And there's adverts of him plastered on posters in the background advertising Icy Hot, and Icy Hot is a health pack in the game. And every time you pick it up, it's like, Icy Hot. So I thought that was kind of cute.
It's nice and cheesy, and as I said, like for the style of humor and type of game it is, I am surprised it isn't going a bit on a slightly more easier difficulty curve. Maybe that pans out as you go throughout the game and unlock more powers and stuff, but yeah, remains to be seen. The humor's enough to make me want to keep at least half an eye on it and see how it shapes up.
I did notice that playing on a harder difficulty level didn't mean I'm playing a harder game. It just meant that enemies took more hits. Yeah. So I was just there tapping the button endlessly, going bored, 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 bored. Show me cutscene. Bored, bored. You know, it that part annoyed me. So I just thought it was kind of lame, really, to be honest. In comparison to some of the other things I played. Speaking of which, Ed, talk to me about Claws of Fury.
Claws of Fury. This looked fun.
Claws of Furry?
Sorry, Claws of Furry.
Claws of Furry. Meow.
Is this a sexual thing?
So this is a roguelike beat-em-up, is what it was sold to me as. You play Ninja Cats.
Ninja Cats.
Sold.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Kittens. So you have like your basic stuff in terms of light attacks, heavy attacks, but the main mechanic of it is basically if you fail the level, you go back to the beginning of that chapter. So you could be on right at the end of the third level, and then all of your team wipes out and you have to go back to the first chapter again. So it's emphasized on challenge a lot more than it is, anything else. So this is again like another hark back to the old arcade days where you can just put your credits in and so on and so forth. That was before my time. We had Time Crisis. We were more civilized people. So the interesting thing about this one is there's two things. One, it's been developed within 9 months. So everything that is there, it's ready to go pretty much imminently. It's all been done in 9 months. There's a lot of challenge. And when I say the levels, you have to start from the beginning, each chapter has randomized levels to a certain extent as well. So you could do a clear run and still not see every level per chapter. The other thing is, so it comes out on Steam and the Nintendo eShop first, and then the other two consoles. But the interesting thing that was being said was just literally how easy it was to release the game on Nintendo eShop in comparison to even 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's something I'm hearing from a lot of developers now. That not only it's easy on the kind of technical submission side of it, but also the paperwork side as well is something they've streamlined and made.
Yeah, they were saying they got the game pretty much approved to go on the Switch from the initial pitch. Every single time they've had a problem, it's been solved within a day or two. They said it's basically, they said it is the easiest process that they have ever had getting a game on a console. So
I can tell as well looking at the game, it's kind of like Bloody Zombie. Was it Bloody Zombie? Bloody Zombies.
Yes.
We were talking about before. It's got that kind of style where the character designs, they look very nice, very hand-drawn kind of thing. But what they've done is they've basically made solid blocks and then attached them to a moving body. So it's not really animating the character. It's moving a robot with things stuck to it, essentially. And it's a weird contrast looking at the characters to the background. But I guess I'm just nitpicking, even because you said it's being made in 9 months. That's impressive.
I think once you get told that sort of thing, you start seeing the strings and the puppets. So one quick caveat that I did used to work at Nintendo. Do we need to put that in? I don't know. The second thing that they mentioned is their version of hats, where you get different unlockable costumes. So one of them that they specifically mentioned was what they have dubbed Catpull, which is basically the regenerating health and stuff like that. So you can get costumes. They've got a Sub-Zero one as well, where you can freeze enemies. But that's also where the chaos and the havoc that they're trying, because the philosophy behind a lot of it is just the more mayhem there is, the more you have fun and the more you unlock, and the more you unlock, the more mayhem that you can create.
Right, yeah.
So the sort of cat costumes are a way to... It's a circle of mayhem. And it rules us all. So yeah, it's a really interesting game. The fact that it's come together so competently, so quickly is really notable. And caveat of my previous job aside, the fact that people are saying that this is a prime example of it's never been easier to get the game on the eShop, it all bodes pretty well, I would say.
Tim, I want to talk about a game with knights in it.
Good.
So let's talk about Big Crown Showdown.
Big Crown Showdown.
And I want to say, before we touch on this, what the game is, this is while I was queuing up to play this game for the first time, one of the aspects of this game is you have characters that wear different hats of your choosing. And there's a big poster that shows the characters. One has a jester hat, one has a Robin Hood type hat, one has antlers on a beret, and then the other one has a squid that's going through a knight's helmet with his tentacles going in and out of the visor. And while we were queuing up at some point, I think it was Alex just went, is that knight got a squid on his head? And one of the guys demoing just turned to us and went, don't you worry about that. And then turned back away again. I was like, that's so ominous. I have to play this game. But what it turned out to be is a very fun party game that will challenge and infuriate your friends.
It reminded me of a kind of dungeon crawling Micro Machines.
Micro Machines is a very apt description, I think, even though it's no driving.
Yeah. But you're kind of making your way through a course of environmental hazards in terms of axes and stuff trying to chop you up and just gaps that you've got to jump over and stuff like that. Each of you have got a character that's a knight with a silly hat. And basically, the basic mechanic is you will want to try and hit other people off the edges of the level. The thing that complicates that and then leads to a lot of sort of literal backstabbing and kind of standoffs and really amusing moments is the fact that if you have your shield brought up and you're pressing the button to kind of defend, then if someone tries to hit you and hits that shield, it knocks them flying backwards.
Yeah. Interestingly, something I didn't realise the first time I was playing this game, I don't think many of us did, but found out the second time, is if you have your shield up and someone does a charged hit attack, then you go flying with the shield.
Well, the other element to that, just on the basic mechanic though, is if you're facing in the opposite direction, then people can still literally hit you from behind as well. Yeah. So because the shield only works in one very unified direction, so it led to these moments where we'd get to these really narrow points, and everyone would go like second guess. Instead of everyone trying to hit each other, everyone would be defending, and there'd be this standoff of everyone just defending and kind of holding their backs away from each other, and this weird kind of Mexican standoff like making its way across this course. But yeah, like it's one of those ones where it's just really fun to kind of mess with other people and troll with them and kind of knocking other people off or just defending them trying to knock you off. And as I said, like it plays a little bit like Micro Machines just because it's the person that gets furthest ahead on the level. If you fall behind too much, then you kind of fall off, and if you get killed by one of the environmental hazards, then you kind of die, and it's the person that goes the furthest gets the most points kind of thing. And yeah, I think it stops once all the other people are dead apart from the first one, and it just gives the points to that person. But yeah, as I said, Micro Machines was the one that kind of made me think of that, just in terms of the multiplayer mechanics and the way it works with people disappearing off the screen type thing. But a really good sort of another good couch co-op. And again, I think good for streaming,
good for parties,
but good, yeah, just a good fun party game for 4 people playing on the same screen sort of thing.
Yeah, we don't have a release date on this yet, but
no.
I hope it's before New Year's, because if we do a New Year's gathering, I'd like to play this game.
That would be a really good one for New Year's.
It was very fun. I really enjoyed it, and I did particularly like playing the first time with Tim, and I got to turn to Tim and say 2 words: Coleman wins. Get used to it. And then by the end, I won. And I was like, I'm glad that fluke paid off.
Cocky git.
I lost the second time, but I was so happy I managed to get that right the first time, sort of thing. It paid off. Tim, what else do you want to grab? Looking at the time, we do have to.
Yeah. There's one that I want to spend a little bit of time on, and then a few that I can rattle through. But Wargroove is one that I just want to mention quickly, because I have got a write up for this. So if you want to go into more details, but basically I can sum this up very quickly. Is the fact it is Advance Wars, and I spoke to the developers a little bit, and they are unashamedly saying not only is this a kind of Advance Wars style game, but they're making it because no one's making Advance Wars anymore, basically. So they are literally like filling in demand, but I think it was also partially because they were such big fans of the game that they want to see another game in this manner. And yeah, like it's very much plays moment to moment, just like Advance Wars did. And the units that I played with were all the kind of ground units, but there are air and sea units that are going to be added to it going forward as well. So it's even more like the kind of later stages of Advance Wars in that regard. But it's the kind of main difference, like visually and kind of thematically, is that instead of a kind of military setting where you've got, it was kind of, miniaturized mini chibi looking characters with mini tanks in the Advance Wars kind of series, whereas this is all kind of magic and
gathering,
fantastically based kind of creatures and stuff, basically. So you've got like your kind of more simple units are just kind of swordsmen and mounted knights, and you got little teams of doggos, and like lots of lots of normal units, and then the bigger stuff is kind of not catapults, but like I presume they do have catapults at some point, but it's like trebuchets and other kind of
trebuchets is way
like
better
that.
Than a catapult.
Yeah, that's true. You've also got like kind of bigger like giant units, like the Golem that I had, and other teams have that. Basically, there's 4 different factions that are coming with the game. They did say that there might be more to add to that in like sort of post-release, but for now there's 4 kind of factions, and they said 12 plus commanders, and I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I'm guessing there's different commanders for each team because they seem to be assigned to a certain faction, and the commanders have like commander powers, like the one that I had like killed all units within close vicinity to them, and yeah, like obviously different commanders will probably sort of mix up the gameplay a little bit and allow you to take different tactics into battle. But in terms, as I said, the moment-to-moment gameplay is literally like, it looks very much like Advance Wars. If anyone remembers, you've got like the kind of 2 sort of opposing troops on each side of a screen, and they take up half of the screen each, and you kind of see how many units each side loses in the kind of animation of each combat. And that plays out exactly the same here. The only real difference that I noticed in gameplay was the way structures are conquered and stuff. In the old game, you used to be able to like conquer other like resources that would gather from basically taking over buildings and towns and conquering them and turning them to your side, basically. And in this, it's much the same. There's kind of castle type structures, but the slight difference is you have to kind of it gives the a bit like the combat animation it gives for like attacking back and forth with them as well, basically. But yeah, or otherwise you're just kind of charging into a castle if it's like empty. But yeah, like it's very much, as I said, Advance Wars that really does sum up. If you want a few more details, go and look at the site. But yeah, anyone that knows, Advance Wars is one of my favorite series of all time, possibly. Something that I've played a ridiculous amount of hours on, and I'm really glad that someone is filling that kind of hole in my gaming like lineup, basically.
There is a lot of games that could fill that hole. You just don't play PC games.
That's possibly true, but this is the closest that I've seen. Like there was a recent release, Cannon Fodder Paper Wars or Paper Wars Cannon Fodder. I can never remember which way around it is.
I used to love Cannon Fodder as a kid.
That looks like fun, but this looks even closer to Advance Wars. But they're adding a few like nice additions, cooperative and competitive online play, but then also they showing off a kind of big level editor and a hopefully easy to use one that allows other people to design levels, but beyond that as well, also design campaigns and stuff like that. So that's something that could really add to like the longevity of the game. If there's a lot of fan created content and a good way of surfacing the good stuff from that could be really interesting and really good as well, basically. So yeah, one I'm really looking forward to. 3 words: Into the Breach. Anyway, I've heard that is good.
I'm gonna rattle through some games real quick, and then we're gonna go for your last one, Ed. So Hyperion Cyberstorm. It is essentially, imagine Bomberman, but twin stick shooter.
Okay.
Where you have 4 ships, and it's very neon, colourful looking, and you have a small squared area, sometimes with obstacles, sometimes with not, and power-ups appear, and you have to pick those up, and the idea is to kill all the other players and win. I say Bomberman because it's got that kind of mentality, but not the... Well, has the strategy, but it's very loose because you need more open space for a twin stick shooter.
Okay.
It's fun. It's silly. Well, it's not meant to. I don't think it's meant to be silly. They were giving out glow sticks for people that played the game, but hey, I enjoyed playing it. We played it on Switch. It looks like it might be another good party game, but I think it's going to be a difficult sell for people, for casual gamers, whereas something like Catastronauts is going to be a much more fun looking silly game. This one is definitely okay. Who's good at 2 and 6 shooters? Think you're better than me? So it's going to be a bit more of a hard sell. Regular Human Basketball is probably the most appealing game I saw at the show. It is essentially competitive lovers in a dangerous space time, and the idea is you have 2 giant robots that are meant to be humans, that are actually robots, but they're robots in disguise. They're humans.
Robots in disguise.
And they are housing tiny little aliens that get inside them, and once you get inside the robots, you see they are different components, different walls, different rooms with buttons in them, and you have to hit different buttons to make the robots do different things. So stand up, move, pick up ball, bounce ball, that kind of thing. Shoot ball into basket, and you're basically doing this incredibly clunky display of robots playing basketball, 2 in each robot at most, I think it is, and playing basketball, one-on-one basketball. It is super fun, super silly. I love Lovers in the Dangerous Space Time, and this is a perfect, not spiritual successor, but in the same vein.
Yeah, it looks similar, and
if
similar
you like
sort
one,
of graphical
you'll
style
get along
as well,
with the
right?
other. I think is probably the best way to put it.
Sorry?
I said if you get along with one, you're going to get along with the other.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Immortal Unchained, I had a very quick go at. I had to stop because It's basically a Souls-like game, which I can get along with Souls-likes every now and then. Like Bloodborne's one of my favourite PlayStation games of all time. And this one takes that idea of a Souls-like and adds in third-person shooter mechanics, which interested me. But the problem is, where it's so early at the moment, it's quite rough. It's a little bit janky. And that's not something... If you've ever played a Soul game and really got into it, a Souls-like game, you know that you need every bit of smooth control in that game.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully that's something they can work out over time.
Yeah, it looks very promising.
Yeah.
So go check out Immortal Unchained. Have a look for it.
To be honest, though, I played this and then completely forgot everything about it. I don't remember. I don't even remember playing it. I know I played it. I don't remember.
That was me with Rampage.
I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes, how it progresses. Such as Strange Brigade, which, if you remember, won my Game of Show, EGX.
Yes, and I didn't get time to play that. I was disappointed. I wanted to go back and play. There were so many games that I didn't get time to play. I didn't get time to go to the whole Left Field collection as well, basically. But
okay.
Yeah, Strange Brigade was a shame because that game was amazing at EGX, and I'd love to have seen how that progressed.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that last year. Unfortunately, I didn't get to play with anyone I knew this time, but I did get the chance of playing with random, so I did get the idea of how that's going to be when all my friends evidently don't pick up the game and I do. And and play on my own on Lonely Night. All my friends go to PC instead of PlayStation, and then I'm sad again. It's still fun. It's still good. Definitely keep an eye out for Strange Brigade. It's a third person. The idea is best played cooperatively, 4-player, kind of like a Left 4 Dead type thing, but third person horde mode style game. Yeah,
and kind of treasure hunter, Indiana Jonesy flavory. 1940s, was it? 1930s,
yeah, very,
that kind of
very
thing?
old timey wimey. Adventurers.
And that looks fun. That looks fun.
Yeah, I really enjoy playing that game. I look forward to playing that more before it comes out as well.
Cool.
Ed, let's have yours.
My game of show, it would 100% be Disco Elysium. I went into it not knowing too much about it. I came out the experience, I think I dragged every person I could to that game, in many cases literally physically, in terms of Tim, who then still didn't play it. Thanks. I don't know if you mentioned before, but Alex jumped on the game, and when she looked around afterwards, she realised that Rezzed had closed. That's engrossing a game.
I was outside, and I said I was going outside because we were about to leave, and then Alex walked up, and it was just like, I can't remember what she said. She said, like, that's a really good game or something. I didn't realise the show was closing. I went, you've just left that. You've been on it for hours. I've not been on it for hours. It's been like half an hour. No. I left you on there 2 hours ago.
Yeah, despite that, I still haven't heard much about the game because we kept on having that conversation. So what is the actual game?
Okay, so Disco Elysium is an open-world, choose-your-own-adventure RPG cop procedural set in a distinct time period where you play. So the beginning of the game is basically you are a cop who has tried to drink themselves to death, basically. So
right,
the beginning of the game starts with your reptilian brain sort of negotiating with you whether you're going to live or die, and then from there you have to solve some crimes, but you become a complete blank slate because you basically drank your entire identity away. And so from there, it's one of the funniest games I've played. Like, I've never laughed so hard at a game in preview since Octodad Dadliest Catch. And it's just because, like, you can put stats in different things. So, for example, you can make your character really observant of people's, like, smaller details, but you can make them really socially incapable. You could make them really physically dominating, or like you can make your character so smart that they become a bit like modern day Sherlock and talk down on everyone. One of the most really interesting things is that, and in talking to the lead developer, he was basically like, so of the 25 people on staff, 8 of them are writing on the game, and which is an incredible ratio. And basically every single rabbit hole that you could think to go down in terms of dialogue that they've thought of, you can do it. And the game will accommodate those choices. So, for example, quite early on, there is a like, you can look in the mirror and you can see your character's ugly face, and there's a stat check to stop pulling the face, and it's nearly impossible to win at that stage in the game. But when you then talk to a woman later on, you can try the face on her, and if you succeed, you get to find out what you did the night before. If you fail, your character can only say the words, "I want to make on you," and then she has a go at you for not being able to use language correctly. There's another character where basically you can have the errant thought of, oh, this character's black, and you can sort of go down that rabbit hole. You can talk to someone else, and the developers basically said, if you want, you can make your character a really hardcore racist, or you can make them really, really left-wing and progressive. So there's a character that in the same demo keeps using homophobic slurs, and you can turn around and go, now, excuse me, son, your class is no excuse for that sort of language. You need to think about what you've been saying and the impact that it has on other people. Like, every single way that you would want to play the character, you can play it. Like, if you want to shoot up some people, apparently you can do that later on. If you want to be pacifist, you can. But it's incredibly inventive. It's really, really funny. And yeah, like, they know that it's going to be a bit controversial. I think the quote that was given to me was, I know that the humour in this game is going to come back to bite us on the arse. And I would not be surprised if that was true. But it's going to be a really incredible game in the meantime.
Okay. All right, well, as we wanted to do, we have run over on time. So sadly, we've got to lose Ed. He's got to run away. So thank you for joining us, Ed, and thanks for coming to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I've been trying to get on this show for like 2.5 years, so I'm glad that I can finally get on there.
Yeah, we have attempted a couple of times, and things have gone awry in different ways, some because of jobs and other reasons. But this time we got you on the show, and hopefully we can get you back in future to do some more fillings. And it's handy when, especially Dan, doesn't go to shows because he hates people.
Also, quickly, your final thoughts on Rezzed 2018 this year, quickly.
It was pretty good. I mean, I've only been to one Rezzed before, which was with you guys, and it's been, you know, I always love going to the expos with you guys, and I have a lot of fun. So I think Rezzed is a really great opportunity for people to be able to show their games, especially in scenarios that they wouldn't otherwise be able to. And also, we got to wave to Tim Schafer once or twice, so that's a big dream of mine that got to achieve. So thank you very much for that, guys. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate spending the time with you all.
Well, It was nice to spend time with you as well. So yep, thank you very much, and thank you very much for coming on and reporting about some games.
All right. Well,
and I like your overabundant use of basicallys as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've learned from the best.
Yep. All good.
Thanks, Ed.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so carrying on. We've only got a couple of games left. How many have we got left, Tim?
Well, it all depends. I will rattle through a few quickly, and then there's a couple that we can both talk about.
Let's get you down to 2.
Oh, no, I can't do that at the moment. But let's go through very quickly. I'll mention Rogue Aces because it was on the show floor, and also it's a really fun game that I've been really enjoying. But I have got a review code for that, and I'll have either a write-up or more likely be talking about it on next week's show in more detail. So I'll come back to that. But it is a dogfighting sim, a dogfighting game in the kind of Luftrausers kind of category of dogfighting or kind of style of flying, but it's doing enough of its own thing to be interesting and fun. And as I said, I'll fill that out in more details going forward, but I just thought I'd mention it because it was at the show and is a game I've been really enjoying as well. So, but yeah, also quickly, Phoenix Point was the new game from Julian Gallup. Anyone that doesn't know, he was the original creator of the original XCOM, not the more recent ones, but back in the day. And this one's a bit weird. I want to investigate this to see if this is true, but the game that they're making now, Phoenix Point, is so much in terms of like the UI and graphical interface and just general kind of presentation looks like XCOM, that I'm really wondering if they've actually licensed the engine from the devs of that, basically. So I want to look into that. But generally, it looks very much like XCOM. You've got a squad of people, and you're kind of going up against alien squads and kind of shooting them, stuff like that. You've got Overwatch. You've got like a lot of the same kind of mechanics. You've got like an area you can move into and stuff like that. But the bit of differences, and you can like change up weaponry, and that has an effect on like how far you can then move and fire. Like there is differences. One of the main differences, though, and additions to the game that looked really quite a good thing to like add, was basically you can. I don't know if you can do it on the minor characters, and I just didn't notice that at first, and then only noticed it when I got to the boss. But they had this massive boss, kind of almost like big spider alien mutated thing with this ugly head and all this stuff. Anyway, but you could basically target independent parts of that enemy, and the part that you shot at or did damage to, if you were successful in doing it, kind of it made a difference to different types of things. Like if you shot off a leg, it made a difference to if it could move and attack you, type of thing. If you shot off a head, it seemed worse at targeting. Like I exploded the creature's head and stuff like that, and it seemed worse at actually finding and targeting my troops and stuff like that. It's one of those things where I don't know, like XCOM, and it may just be I sucked at XCOM despite the fact I really love that type of game, but it's one of those games where I often went, okay, that mission went terribly wrong, let's play that again so I can actually get through it with some of my people surviving, type of thing. And I think this is very much going to be in that sort of mold for me as well. But yeah, look, if you're a fan of XCOM, this is definitely one to look out for. It's definitely of the same mold, and is doing some interesting other additions to make it worth looking out for as well. So, cool. Another site was an interesting game. Again, I've got a video review for this, so I won't go into too much detail. But basically, this was a kind of puzzle platformer, light on the platforming, a bit more heavy on the puzzling, but it's a kind of interaction between a deaf girl who's gets some sort of powers and a cat, and there's a kind of mystery about exactly who this cat is and where it came from, possibly. But then there's also just this deaf girl is the kind of central character, and it had a kind of interesting graphical style on kind of the echolocation type stuff, which I don't know about you, in other games that we've seen this quite a lot lately, but they tend to be kind of very black and white, and this was a much more colourful approach. There was a kind of bubble of colour around the girl in question, but some of the interactions involve like using the cat's meow to allow her to see, to jump over a gap, and all these type of interactions and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's definitely kind of indie game. It's got a nice kind of not quite Studio Ghibli-esque in the Forgotten Anne style, but definitely like of that sort of leaning in terms of a graphical style. Not quite as definitely Studio Ghibli, but in a kind of anime type style. But yeah, like it's graphically interesting. The gameplay was, as I said, definitely more on the kind of puzzle and pathfinding kind of solving, more than like any really intricate like platforming. So the listeners of the show will know that means it's of more interest to me generally. So yeah, it seemed to be ticking a few of the right boxes. As I said, I've gotten into with the developer hopefully going up on the site, so you can check that out at some point as well. Right now, this is my longest. Oh no, actually, just quickly before I go into that one, Lumines Remastered I played as well, and that is Lumines Remastered. That's what it is.
Good.
It's on the Switch. Played it 2-player. Forgot how much fun that game is, or well, almost forgot how much fun that game is. But that's definitely that game. So
a worthy
that is
title
good
for the Switch.
Sorry?
A worthy title.
Yeah, definitely a good fit for the Switch. I'm glad that's on its way. But yeah, still not sure how to pronounce it. We should have checked with Ed, maybe because he might know. But Lumines, whatever. But it's a good game, a good puzzle game, and that was good fun, and that's coming soon-ish, I think. Band. So and then this is the longest. Yeah, we have to be I know we're running tight for time, but it might take me the rest of the night to say the title of this game.
Just say it.
It is Super Kane Magic Zero Legend of the Kane.
That's not as bad.
It's quite long, but yeah, this game was also possibly the craziest game I saw at the show. Made by some Italians, and when I say crazy, I mean properly crazy. Like, it's the type. I did go up to the developer and say afterward that the humor was really, really crazy, but it was my type of crazy. And it just made me chuckle throughout. Basically, it's a kind of local co-op 4-player sort of dungeon crawling-y type thing, but yeah, done in a really wacky cartoon style, really zany sense of humor. Like, the script was absolutely crazy. It was something like, I think I was beating up a tree. There was a boss, I think, if I was speaking correctly, and it said, I'll take it easy. I know it's a Monday, but come on. And I think the reply was, Monday, I could have sworn it was September, or something like that. It was something along those kind of lines, and just like completely random like interactions between the characters and stuff, but like a really zany level of humor that I really enjoyed, and it's one that I'm going to keep an eye on because, yeah, I think that's going to be good fun.
Okay. It kind of sounds like that Eastern European humour where you've got like a Polish friend that tells you a joke and it just makes no sense, but they're cracking up.
Yeah, like, it's one of those ones where I don't actually want to like go through too much of the actual jokes because I won't do them justice, and like, it's one of those things where it's just really stupid humour, and even like the moment-to-moment things of some of the stuff you're doing is really stupid and weird and wacky as well. But yeah, it's got to be your flavour of crazy, I think, to enjoy, but yeah, one that I'm going to keep an eye on anyway, basically.
Cool. Steel Rats.
I played this too. We played this independently of each other. I put my foot in my mouth with the developer.
Hold on. How'd you do that?
Basically, well, describe the game and I'll come back to that in a minute.
Okay. So I went. This previously was going to be my game of show, and it changed like about 20 minutes ago. Okay. The more I thought about it. This is a game I'm really looking forward to. It kind of reminds me of the days of Xbox Arcade.
Right.
This would be a perfect game for Xbox Arcade. Xbox Live Arcade. You are a member of a motorcycle gang. You live in a dystopian world where machines are rising up against humans, but you don't know why and who is making them. This was kind of advertised to us as you went to the lower levels of the show floor. You found a giant spider monitor hybrid thing that looked terrifying. I
didn't know that was related to a game until like the second day or something.
Yeah, that was related to Street Labs. It was meant to be a model of one of the enemies. Right. It has all these monitors on it. Which, if you go to steelratsgame.com, which is the official game's website, you can see like one of those, not the model, but one of those enemies up close. And it was cool because they use like these old CRT TVs that are glued to this model, but inside they've gutted them out and they are monitors inside, so you could play the game on the sculpture. That was pretty cool to do. So the way this game works is kind of like a side-scrolling sort of racing platformer, I guess, is the with a little bit of beat 'em up thrown in there. But everything's done via motorbike because you're a member of a 3-man motorcycle gang called the Steel Rats. And you can switch out each character whenever you want. If your character dies, then you can switch to another one, kind of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mechanics. And each character has different mechanics that they use for their bike. So one person can do like a ground and pound style. One person can rev up their cycle, and then as they let go, they leave like a flame trail. Another one can use the kind of the front wheel spinning as like a buzzsaw mechanic.
Yep.
There's some really cool stuff there. Now, it's early on. They don't have a release date. I think they said hoping this year in early access, but not sure. But I'm really looking forward to when this game does come out, and I'm hoping it's not like overly priced, because this looks like it could get a decent fan base behind it, but it's got to be priced right.
I think it's going to be reasonable. Did you see the bit when you get to drive up a wall?
Yes, that is one of the...
Yes.
Like, all the characters can drive up a wall as well. You've got like an action button that you can use to attack enemies with the motorcycle. Kind of like Loco Cycle, but not crap.
Well, basically, I was playing the game and one of the developers was kind of hovering over my shoulder. And at one point, I got a bit into the game and he explained a bit of it and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is like a Trials game that I actually like.
Yeah.
And he went, oh, yeah, we made some of those Trials games. I was like,
oh, that's where you put your okay. I did say it was a bit Trials-like, and he never said that to me.
Sorry.
So you got the different experience, because I got the... everyone was crowding around Disco Elysium.
Right.
Probably on... I think Ed told all of those people to go play it. And while I was waiting to play it, I looked at the serious-looking, gritty RPG, and then I turned around and saw Motorcycle on fire. And then I looked back at the gritty RPG, and then I looked back and saw Motorcycle on fire climbing a wall, and I went, I want to go play this game. So I did that. Unfortunately, he saw my pass, and if you go in, it's not a bad problem to have. But developers will see you and go, hey, you're a press person. I need to tell you everything about this game. I need to show you how to play this game. I need to explain every aspect of this game to you. So I got that kind of experience. Which wasn't too fun because he kept telling me what to do. I was like, I want to do this. And he's like, yeah, you can do that, but it's better if you do the right way. I'm like, but I don't want to do the right way. Yeah,
you don't want to be told a way to play a game.
I'm Jacob Fry of indie video games. I just want to do things my way and have fun with it. But I got to go play again on the sculpture instead of on the press thing.
But I imagine this game is going to be... Why I said I imagine it's going to be priced well is I imagine it's going to be priced in the kind of Trials area of kind of pricing, I would imagine.
I'm hoping that kind of 15 to 25 pound sweet spot is a good one.
And good ones to look out for at that sort of price.
Yes. Looking forward to them making some improvements. Like I said, it had a lot of bugs, but it's very, very early. But I really enjoyed what I played of that game. So
good
Steel
fun.
Rats. All right, Tim, what's your last game? Did you have a last game?
Well, I think we got through everything. We should mention that Loading was there showing Hipster Cafe. Again, people that we're friendly with. But yeah, that was just a bit of silly fun and kind of very early and one to come back to. I also played Extinction. We'll talk about that more on a show going forward, possibly. But I think that was just released at the wrong price point and has been attracting a lot of attention, negative attention, because of that decision. But anyway, and I had a quick on Pocket Rumble, which was not the game I was aiming to play from the other games I didn't get to play on the Nintendo stand. But one that was all right, but wasn't one that I was absolutely in love with. Kind of a simplified beat 'em up in like very pixelated, pixel graphic-y type stuff. But I didn't think that it looked that great on the TV size. I think it would probably play better on handheld mode, basically. But anyway. Yeah, but that was me generally. So what was your game of the show then, Mr. Coleman?
Okay, so I believe yours was Wargroove and Ed's was Disco Elysium.
Yes.
Wargroove, we've not spoken about. It's called Nothing to Fear.
Oh, okay.
Which should be coming out to, I believe it's confirmed for PS4, Xbox One, PC, and then hopefully coming to Switch. Don't know if that's day and date or later down the line.
Yep.
Hopefully coming next year, I think they said. This kind of combines two of my great loves, platformers and point-and-click games. Oh, and stealth games, for good measure. So, the way this works, it's got a very beautiful cartoon style. Think, do you remember Hell Yeah, Wrath of the Dead Rabbit?
Right, yes.
John used to bang on about that one a lot. It's got that kind of tone to it, which I mentioned to the developer, and he seemed very flattered by that as well.
Okay.
That is a stunning game. So the basis of this one is monsters are real. It's kind of Our Little Monsters, the cartoon.
Monsters are real, Coleman. What are you talking about?
Real Monsters, the cartoon. Kind of that.
Right.
Where monsters are real. I guess Monsters Inc. is a more relevant modern day type thing.
Okay.
Monsters are real, they exist, and they exist to scare humans. And the big bad in that world is the boogeyman.
Okay.
The boogeyman, and in this modern day of things like social media and surveillance and the internet, there are all these things that kind of work against the monsters, where they can't really do their job like they used to anymore, and they humans remain unscared unless it's politics. And so the monsters have kind of...
Unless the monster gets into power.
Yeah, anyway. The monsters have kind of retired and gone into hiding. And learning of this, the old ways and what's happened to them, the Boogeyman's son, who I've completely forgotten his name off the top of my head, but...
Son of Boogeyman?
Let's call him Son of Boogeyman. It's like Punk or something. He's got like a very simple one-syllable name. He decides that he wants to pick up the reins and bring back the scaring to the world that should be. So what you end up with is I realise I'm saying side-scrolling a lot today, but side-scrolling adventure where it's part platformer and part point-and-click, in the fact that you go around and you'll have different humans in an area and that will lead you from point A to point B, and most of them have to scare in numerous ways. So you've got to go around and figure out like what object you kind of study their behaviors and hide in the background and figure out what they do. So the level that was shown up was a store, and very early on you see like the pimple teenager kid comes out to empty the bins or something, and you can pour like a red juice down a drain pipe to drip in front of him, and he'll think it's blood and get scared and run away. So that's like a very easy one to show you in. And then the other one is you've got you've got like a manager and an assistant, and they both seem to be stealing from the store.
Right.
Like minor thefts, things like eating food while on the job, that sort of thing. But they're both blaming each other for it, which is kind of funny in itself, that the characters have their own little thing going on as well. And you'll do things like you'll see one eating from a box of cereal, so you'll hide a mousetrap in the cereal. One will put his head underneath the slush puppy type machine and pour it into his mouth. So you'll take a hot dog off a rotisserie and stick it in there, and he gets freaked out that he's eaten meat in the slush puppy.
Oh,
slush puppies don't contain meat. I don't know if you knew that.
Not all slush puppies.
Not all slush puppies. Hashtag not all slush puppies. And yeah, it's really interesting. So it kind of takes that mechanic of, if you don't really know, you're picking up items along the way, you're not really sure what you're doing with each item, but you can always do the old point and click adventure style of take object and rub it on things until it does a thing.
Right.
So you can take that mentality. You also have to do the stealth thing. But one of the cool things,
how does the stealth mechanic of that work then?
It's very like hide in the shadows, keep out of sight. Each character has a vision cone in front of them, so they've got a limited vision as to where you are. If you are just outside that cone of vision, though, they can go, is that a thing I see very off in the background? Let me walk towards it. So you've got to be careful in that kind of thing.
Right.
You can stand above them and climb over them on different objects in that kind of style. But one of the cool mechanics is the mimic mechanic, where you can... so the three versions I had were a watermelon, a chocolate like Linden style bunny,
right,
and a floor mop. And you could go up and you could mimic them. So you copy their style, and it's good for one use. If you use it once, then you have to go back and copy their style again.
Right.
But if someone's walking past you, you can quickly turn into that object so they walk past you, which was quite fun, being a little demon monster child that turns into a
Does it matter if that object's like severely out of place, or do they question it, do you know, or do you
not
really
from
kind of
what I saw, but it's a store and things are a bit skew, so
right, so yeah,
it's not unusual for a customer to have picked up a watermelon, placed it. Speaking from experience, it's not that uncommon for a customer to have picked something up, going, I'm going to buy this. No, I'm not. I know. I'll put this chicken breast in with the chocolate.
Yeah, in a random place.
That's the excuse I give them. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. The only downside I gave it was there's kind of a butler character that's narrating the story as if it's already happened, and he's telling it in a historic perspective.
Yeah.
The narrator is not very good.
You could live without that, basically, or a better version of it.
Because he's meant to be like a snooty butler, he talks very slowly, but he's meant to be a monster, so he kind of talks like that every now and then. He slurs with the voice in a particularly purposeful way.
But it's just not very enjoyable.
You can definitely tell it's not a professional voice actor doing that role, and they should probably splash out a little bit and maybe recast that character, because they need to speed up the story along, because it's not it's not FMVs, it's not pre-rendered, it's all storyboards. So you need to work quickly with storyboards, I find. Yeah. But otherwise, that was my game of show. It brought back a lot of old feelings of point and clicks, Sierra, LucasArts type games.
Both going with kind of like genres that have been, reimagined and brought back to life by other people.
Exactly.
But it's interesting anyway. But so what were your thoughts overall for the show?
I liked the show. Couple of things I noticed. I mean, we say it every Rezzed, I swear, and every EGX. We go and go, it's not a lot this year in compared to last year. And it always feels like that. And but the moment I thought that, I walked into a room I didn't know was there.
It's like, another room of games.
There's like a whole another room of things. So that was fun to find out. And it was good. There was a lot of stuff that I enjoyed. There wasn't so much emphasis on mobile titles, which I personally enjoyed, because that was a big
definitely
thing.
More consoles and PCs.
Yeah, there was definitely a big thing on mobile titles last year. The year before, and VR titles last year. Was there 2 VR titles in total? I think there was.
Yeah, and I completely forgot to play one of them. I played Windlands 2, obviously, as we discussed, but the other one I meant to make a journey back for and check it out, but I completely forgot. There was so much I wanted to do throughout the day. So many times, I wanted to go play Wobble Garden in the Left Field collection, which looked awesome, and there was just loads of other things that I wanted to do that I didn't get time for. And look, I know that you and I are in different positions to other people, but I spent a lot of my time over the 3 days actually interviewing people and setting up for the interviews and sorting out stuff for interviews and doing appointments and stuff like that. So I didn't get as much time on the floor, just actually hands-on with games. But obviously, from the amount of games you talk about, I still played a fair amount. I didn't actually think I'd played that many until I kind of went through the list. I played that. I played that. And overall, Rezzed, I've said many times before, is my favourite event of the year, and that still remains the case. There's something I think is just a bit different about the venue, and that's pleasant. It's pleasantly different enough that it kind of feels like a very much its own thing, whereas every other event I go to, MCM and even EGX itself, it's in just like a almost like a big hangar kind of space of just empty blank space that we filled with this stuff. Whereas Tobacco Dock feels like it is that like a succession of rooms and different areas, and things feel very much blocked off from other places, but in a nice kind of comforting way. And there does seem, because there's a lot more indie games there's a much higher percentage of developers actually on hand. And even in the sections like the Idea Xbox section, which was again quite prominent there again, but even in those kind of sections there were still developers of the games that had come along with the games, which I like to see as well. So I think it's possibly, I will pick it as my favourite because it gives us direct access to those kind of people, and particularly in our position, that's nice. But I also think just for the general public coming along, it's nice to actually meet the person behind the game rather than just someone that's just showing the game type thing. So the venue itself is a weird one because it rained on one day, it was a bit too cold on one of the others,
boiling hot on another.
Yeah, but I somehow I still really would prefer to be in that venue and really like that venue. It also, it's odd because, like you say, there was rooms you kind of discover. I was like, oh, another room of games, but then also there was some rooms that felt like oddly empty next to areas of other places, and it still feels a little bit like that at times. But I, as I said, just possibly just because it's a bit different. But also that I don't even notice they put a little bit of extra effort into the whole kind of presentation of the logos and there was that. They definitely put some more presentation into their own style, and that's pre being bought by another company sort of thing. They did that on their own back. I've noticed, since the first Rezzed we went to at Tobacco Dock, that year, Tobacco Dock at one point, was full of shops, and they still had those shop signs up, and those were repurposed for each game room, and those aren't in use now. In some, I think they have them on some of the rooms, but not so much.
I don't know if that's because they've swapped out things over the years, or they just.
Well, the shops are in really weird places. Like I said, you discover one of those rooms that you hadn't found the day before, and then discover there's 3 shops at the back.
Oh no,
like,
I don't mean the actual shops. I mean in terms of those rooms used to be stores back in the day. At some point, and because they have the big shop signs,
right? Yes,
it used to be for a shop,
presentation,
and those were repurposed to go. This is where the dev sessions are. This is where this is. This is where this is Xbox.
Yeah.
And those, I don't think those exist anymore. Since the first time we went, but they kind of make it. So it's a little bit weird because sometimes you have a room where you know where things are, and sometimes because the building's very similar, it's all brickwork and glass, so you can quite easily stumble into the wrong room looking for the thing you're looking for, sort of thing.
Yeah, you're like, is it on this corridor or on the same corridor on the other side of the building, kind of thing.
I love the venue, but it does come with it. It comes with its perks and it does come with its downfalls as well.
Yeah,
like Curve Digital definitely found out this year that the room they have is the one that is prone to overheating.
Right.
In a big bat, because I think that's the one sold out had the year they had Unbox.
Okay,
and they had a big problem with PCs overheating and shutting down.
Oh, that's not too good.
So now they're not in that room, and now Curve and Windlands were this year and had a similar problem. And I think especially some of the computer desks, because they don't bring the way the developers come out, they bring their kit and stuff, but they don't bring the computers.
Yeah,
the computers are supplied, and one of them had they have this big bank of computers that are basically computers locked in cupboards. And the fan that pumps air into those cupboards was broken.
Oh.
so and they're running VR,
that's not so good.
Those things run hot. I got to hear a lot of those kind of issues this year as well.
But yeah, also just a bit of insider thing as well. I got to chat to some of the people that run the show as well, and just to get a bit of confirmation that at least as it stands at the moment, there are no plans to rename the show or anything like that to be PAX UK or anything like that. It's all going to remain EGX because that's still got a good brand name and stuff, basically.
Because the rumor originally was it was going to be Rezzed or EGX, and then underneath a PAX show.
And it doesn't even sound like they're going to that necessarily. There might be some sort of branding involvement at some point, I would guess, but nothing that they've sort of enacted now. But then also the fact that basically there's going to be no changes to the show and everything's going to be running as it has in previous years. So that's good news for fans of what's going on. That it did say that they might get more access to bigger people going forward and more guests, so that's a good thing in that regard. And so have to see how that pans out, but it generally seemed like it was a fairly positive thing and something that's not going to negatively impact on either of the shows, basically. So that's good news.
Cool. All right, we've run over.
Yep.
Long over.
Long over.
But this, that's a show.
That's a show.
Dan's going to kill us.
Yep.
Right, Tim, we're going to slot in your interview as well.
So, Into Robots, I got to meet one of the developers, got to have a quick chat with and catch up, and he sort of took me through the game, and I got to play just before we spoke here, and come along and listen to that and see what you think. We are here on the floor of EGX Rezzed again, and I've managed to corner another developer and sit him down, and he's going to tell us a bit more about Insane Robots. So could you introduce yourself and exactly what you do with your team and your position with the company, totally?
Hi, I'm Rob. I'm the creative director of Planiac and the founder. And so, I've been one of the main people behind making this game, Insane Robots, that's coming out this summer on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Okay. I guess I'm the main game designer, and I also programmed a chunk of it as well. Okay. But actually, lots of people have worked on this game over the 3.5 years it's been in development. We started the first line of code in January 2015. We actually did lots of tabletop prototyping for a long time before that as well. So the first version of the game was actually made with a deck of cards and was played in our studio within 15 minutes of being invented. And we were iterating it from then on. Cool. That was made by drawing on cards and making a new game.
And I have to say that appealed to me, as everyone knows from me and stuff. We do Tabletop Tuesday events, and it's something that we're video gamers at heart, but we are well known for kind of covering board gamers and board games that might be interested to video gamers. So this is kind of the other angle of that. This is video games that might be of interest to board gamers, I think, possibly, no?
Yeah, this is a very much a video game, but it has a foot in board games in that we started the design process with that. Things changed a lot when we went digital, but it was a really amazing process to do, and there's features in the game that we couldn't have made if we'd only tried to do them in digital, because they're so kind of meticulously designed. You need the freedom and the fluidity of doing tabletop stuff and playing with it and changing the design and tweaking it to enable that design to have happened.
And I guess that process makes it easier to go through some of those iterations quite quickly as well.
Yeah, it lets you iterate really quickly, find what's good, find what's fun, tweak that and get it better and better. And then we started the digital process, and that was a lengthy build process. And about 20 people have worked on the game overall. Okay. So we've had 5 amazing artists who've done a beautiful job of like making the environments look lovely within the 2D maps and the backgrounds and everything, and then making loads of really unusual robots. There are 43 quirky different robots in the game. We had 3 amazing writers who not only set up all the characters of the robots and like their backstories and why they're in the game and their insults, because they all insult each other very, very in very funny ways, but also the whole story of the single player campaign, which is about this insane world ruled by this insane leader called the Colonel, who you are building a team of robots up to overthrow. Right. So that's all reflected in the story, and you gradually reveal that as you go through the single player campaign.
Okay, we'll come back to the campaign in a second, but the kind of minute to minute gameplay that is kind of a bit easier to break down in the multiplayer, just because you've got kind of one-on-one turn-based kind of combat where you're drawing powers and kind of making use of those attack or defense related powers, or hacking your opponent to kind of lower their defenses or lower their attack. It's a kind of what were the kind of influences for that style of gameplay, or is it anything that you've based it on, or was it just something that you came up with the idea of? Basically?
So I came up with the idea, and then we were looking also at what is happening in card battling, and we wanted to do something quite different. When I say card battling, I mean kind of the digital card battle games that are out there, and there were things that we didn't like about those games. And so this making our own game gave us the opportunity to take out 2 big things that we didn't like in those kinds of games. One of them is selling you cards. Right. Like we don't want to have that business model, and we don't sell cards to you in the game. People don't like that.
It's a collectible card game, isn't a trading card game.
It's not a TCG. It's not a trading card game. The deck is the deck.
Yes.
And then the other thing we took out, and some people do like this, but not everyone, is deck customization. Yeah. It's very time consuming. Some people find it quite worky, quite boring, and it puts quite a lot of people off from going into a game like this. And when we took those things out, it freed us to make something really novel and different, and it freed us to focus right in on the design of the 23 token battle deck that you play this game with. And that is the deck. So when you know that deck, you know how to play the game. But there's still tons of strategic depth under that that comes out as you play. So an experienced player really knows how to master it and can do really well. A beginner can look at the tokens and understand how to play. So we've made the game really accessible.
And you did say that a beginner is more... Well, a beginner could easily win a round between 2 people, just slightly based on luck, but also kind of, just doing the right thing at the right time, basically. But the kind of gameplay allows for the fact that if you are a more experienced player, you are probably more likely to win, basically, yeah?
So yes, a bit like with one of the inspirations is the idea that you're surfing the probabilities that are thrown at you, and a good player knows how to do that. Is an expert surfer. Yeah. A bad player might still surf well, but they're not so likely to do so. So the nice
more by luck than judgment, basically.
Yeah. So what it means is a beginner can win a battle even against an experienced player, and that's nice for a beginner. Yeah. But a more experienced player will be more likely to win and will win more of their battles, and they'll rise up the rankings in the online multiplayer, and they'll be greater masters of the battle. And it's a little bit like it is with Mahjong, like that's a game of luck, but actually good players do really well and bad players do less well, or beginners do less well.
Yeah. And how long are you seeing as battles? Around 15 minutes or so, I think?
10-15. So each individual battle is 10-15 minutes. We have several different modes. We're launching with the one main quick battle mode, but we have some other modes in the works, and some of those are much faster. So there's a fast and furious mode, which is where every turn is only 15-20 seconds long. You only have 5 health.
Keep on it really quickly.
So that's going to be a really fast battle. That might be over in 5-7 minutes. Right, okay. So the individual battles are about 15 minutes long. You might do a chain of best of 3 as well. Yep. And then also the single player campaign is actually, we're saying it's a 20+ hour single player campaign.
Right, okay, so there's a lot to it.
And a single tournament in that, which is 3 survival arenas. Yep. It was between 15 minutes and an hour.
And as I said, coming back to the single player, that's something where that seemed to take an influence from board games as well. You've got the kind of hex-based map, and you're kind of moving around that map, but the terrain that you're on can make a difference depending on the character that you're using and the powers they have as well, basically, yeah?
So that's taken in influences from everything from tabletop to Civ 5 to XCOM, any of those kinds of things where people are moving around hex maps. Oh, Advance Wars was an influence as well. And actually overall in the single player campaign, FTL and the way that's an exploration and uses narrative was also a big influence. And in that map, it's turn-based. There's tons of stories to discover. There's tons of power-ups for your robots to discover. They're random generated. They're different every time you play.
Okay.
So it means every time you go in, you're going to have a different experience. And they're also rogue-ish.
Right.
And that's the reason I say that is that when you go into a tournament, you've got a robot with a certain setup, and if you survive that tournament, if you found cool stuff during that tournament, you get to keep it. But if you die, you lose all the cool stuff and all the upgrades that you did during that tournament.
Yeah. Okay, so there's the risk reward of kind of pushing through and seeing how you're doing. And
exactly, yeah. And there's a nice thing that if you do lose a tournament, actually not many people have seen this yet, but if you do lose a tournament, the robot that killed you becomes your arch enemy, and then you get a massive bonus if you ever find them and defeat them.
Actually get back to them. Okay, so that's like bringing the Nemesis system into that then, basically.
Absolutely. That influenced that, and we thought that was quite a nice thing to do. So every robot in the arenas has an arch enemy that they're most keen to get, but if you do battle the arch enemies, they're also super tough.
Okay, and what kind of made the theme that you've picked for this the right fit for the gameplay style that you've gone for?
Good point. So, good question. The game is very much about building up the circuits in your robot. You're completing your attack, and it's not valid until you complete your attack. You're completing your defense. You can't be. You're defenseless until you do that. And then you're augmenting your robots. You're adding surprise moves. So the boost system lets you add surprise moves to an attack. So all that stuff felt very much like constructing robots and modifying robots. And then you're hacking a slot on an enemy robot, and you're swapping slots around. So it felt like this kind of what would robots be like if they were battling but with their minds? And that's why it was a really close fit. And that led
just
to
a natural fit for what happens.
And I also was really like the idea that there are other card battler type games that are in kind of fantasy worlds or different kinds of worlds. We wanted to do something in a different world. So this is a kind of humorous future robot world. I should mention also that the writers have brought loads of humour into the writing in the game. So they've been influenced by everything from Flight of the Conchords to Monty Python, and the whole kind of comedy style of what the robots say and who they are, and the story events are all
kind of the personality of each robot came out quite well. I thought not only in their insults and stuff like that, but also in their artwork as well. I thought that kind of shone through basically. But speaking about the art style, why did you go with the kind of? They seem to all have no legs, basically. That's a definite design choice. Why did you go with that kind of?
So the robots in this period of robot kind's history are able to float and fly around with jetpacks and that kind of thing. And so they're these hovering robots, and that let us do. The animation that we wanted to do on the robots, and it was the way we wanted to kind of portray them. It's kind of for technical as well as design reasons, and it was the way the robots came out. But it suited the way we wanted to animate the robots in the battle environment.
And what sort of formats are you aiming for? I think it was Xbox One, PS4, and PC at the moment.
So we're out this summer on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC, both OS X and Windows. So we'll be up on Steam. The Steam page for the game is already up. So if you're a Steam user, please do go and wishlist us. We'll be aiming to do things like probably pre-sales on the console platforms. That's all still to be decided. Pricing is still to be decided. There's lots of info about the game up at www.insanerobots.com. And that's the webpage.
And the other important question: when can we get hold of
It's
Insane
out
Robots
summer 2018.
Summer 2000.
Yes.
Okay. So you don't have a definite date, but
we haven't announced
summer,
the exact release date yet. But summer 2018. Please look out for Insane Robots. Please go and wishlist us on Steam. And thank you.
The question of the show so far.
Yes.
Do you have plans for a Switch version?
So we know we've got a game that's really fun, really accessible, that people can get really easily into. And I want to get it into as many players' hands as possible. I mean, I really want this game to be played by lots of people. We're an indie studio, releasing on 2 consoles and Windows and
so
Mac.
That's quite a
big release for us to do. We're sim shipping on all of those. So for now, we've really got our heads down. We're focused on those. We haven't announced any other platforms. But watch the space, and we'll let everyone know when there are new platforms, if and when there are new platforms to announce. counts.
I look forward to playing it sometime. I do think it would be a good fit for the Switch. It seems like a game that would sit well with that type of mobile platform.
Yes.
But I will look forward to playing it on anything because I think it will be enjoyable anyway. So
thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you very much. Thanks for enjoying us.
Bye for now.
Look forward to Insane Robots later this summer.
Thank you.
All right, so that is it for this week. That is it until next week. We come back with a Dan, hopefully.
Yep.
With a me, hopefully.
Yep.
It's a bit up in the air at the minute. But we'll be back for episode, what is it, 290? Oh my God, it's so
the
close.
Countdown to 300 is on.
It's too close, I don't like it. All the plans have gone out the window already. All right. We're not going to do shout outs and stuff because we're like 2 hours long and a bit. So we'll
go.
We'll get all that next week. So thank you for listening to our EGX Rezzed special of the Big Red Barrel UK podcast, episode 189. Thank you very much for Ed for jumping in, finally getting to jump in on the show and having a little chat with us. You can follow him on Twitter at JokeSound. Tim?
Yes?
You're here.
I'm here.
You can follow Tim at BRB Tim. You can follow me at Dammit Coleman and the website itself at Big Red Barrel. Of course, BigRedBarel.com on the website, Facebook.com/BigRedBarel. And as Dan likes to say, go internet.com/Big Red Barrel. You'll find us somewhere. And also Big Red Barrel TV on YouTube, where we will have videos for Rezzed and stuff. So, yes. Anyway, for this week, I have been Coleman.
I might have been Tim.
And that was an Ed. And until next week, dear listeners, goodbye.
You and your ears are quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. Why not roll on over to BigRedBarel.com for more podcasts, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarel.com.